My very first experience with electronic games, if you were to consider them to be video, would be at the University of Utah. At the time, there were about 5 places where there were video screens connected to computers. University of Utah happened to be one. To put this in context, the idea that this may have a broader appeal was really because I was managing the games department at an amusement park summers. That's how I was putting myself through college. And it was very easy to see that the things that you could do with the computer were so much better than the stuff that I was able to put into the arcades. I mean, I can remember one arcade game that had nothing more than a rolling carpet with a little skier on a couple of rods. I mean, it was making big money. So, you know, you say, hey, I can do better than that. The original company's name was Syzygy. And we got that out of the dictionary, and we just thought it was cool. Of course, we were techies and engineers, and the fact that nobody could pronounce it or spell it didn't seem to bother us. People called us Syzygy and Syzygy, and we thought that it was great. The alignment of planets in a gravitational field, you know, and all that sort of stuff. But it turned out when we went to incorporate, we started out as just a partnership. It was already taken by a candle maker in Mendocino. So we had to choose something else. Atari was on the list, and we got the name from the game of Go, which we were playing at the time. And it's a Japanese game, and if I'm about to take a group of your stones, I say Atari, which is sort of like polite warning that you were going to be engulfed. And I thought that was a great aggressive name for a company. Syzygy was started in my daughter's bedroom. Computer Space was actually done in the daughter's bedroom. I had a 3-bedroom house, and I had 2 daughters. So I just put the 2 daughters together and turned her bedroom into the lab. The first game that I did was a game called Computer Space, which was loosely patterned off of the game that Steve Russell did on the PDP-10 at MIT, which sort of went like wildfire throughout the computer environment from 69 through 70. It was a flying saucer and a rocket ship, and you'd fly around and you'd use Newton's first law, and you know, it was cool, and all my friends loved it, and all my friends were engineers. People ask me, did you ever think it was going to get this big? And it was difficult to quantify what big was in those days. Yeah, you were doing millions of dollars in sales and that sort of stuff, but in reality you didn't have a frame of reference. But I can remember driving in one morning and seeing this parking lot, and we'd outgrown the facility, and we had cars parked up and down the street, and the parking lot was completely full and double parked. And I thought to myself, you know, indirectly, games are paying for all these cars. And somehow the physical actuality of a car, and knowing how much that was, and there were so many of them, it was that was kind of a defining moment, because I can remember I said, wow, we've created a monster here. Atari was able to attract the best and the brightest. And you'd get in a room with some of these guys, and the synapses were, there was almost electricity in the air. And it was such an exciting thing to go after the best and the brightest and be able to bring them in. Because this was at a time in Silicon Valley where everybody was going to the bare cubicle and that sort of thing. We put in offices and hot tubs and various things. Well, it was very, very interesting. I mean, it was the early 70s in Silicon Valley, in California. A lot of hippies and rock music, and we were very young. And it was a kind of in a way, we decided that it was going to be a little bit of a social experience, or experiment. And we had all kinds of company benefits and parties and things like that. I remember that when we went to get health insurance, that the health insurance guys had never seen a demographic that was so young. I mean, Al Alcorn was 27, I was 29. and I think the oldest guy we had was like 38. And a lot of our line workers were 17, 18, 19. And so they'd just never seen that kind of demographic in a company of, I think we're up to 200 employees at the time, 300. And so we got this, you know, we got dental, we got the eyeglasses, prescriptions for virtually nothing because of the statistics. But they made one mistake. They put in orthodontia. And so many of the girls on the line were young enough, they said, I've always wanted to get my teeth straightened. And so I looked out one day and the whole line was sporting new braces. Atari grew without venture capital. We didn't have a penny of venture capital until we were about 40 million in sales. And so as a result, we were constantly out of money because we were, you know, collecting money and paying, and I literally sweat every payroll because, you know, you'd say, do we have enough money in the bank for payroll? The answer was no. Who can I call up to collect some bills? You know, and it was just a fight and a push and a fight and a push. And I actually think that I wouldn't have sold Atari if I'd have just taken a vacation. But I was tired. You know, it was a fight, it was a struggle. And all of a sudden somebody comes along and offers you more money than you ever thought you were going to be worth, and you say, why not?